Match, are you ready?
大切な人たちを Are you ready? Build up. Be the one, be the one. We'll make a world.
It feels like I've started every Heisei Phase 2 video the same way, saying that each season was meant to be different, and I mean, yeah, obviously they're quote-unquote different, but they still keep some familiar themes and, more importantly, style. I don't mean a surface level style where the visuals are similar, but a style in the way that these visuals are represented. For example, each season has vastly different gimmick toys, like USB sticks, small cars, and video game cartridges. But they're all created to sell merchandise, so you'll have the usual shonen tropes during certain arcs that make you want to buy these toys, or anything that has Kamen Rider on it, cake and fish sausage included. To put it simply, shows like Super Sentai, Ultraman, and Kamen Rider all sell toys. Duh. But each one sells them in different ways, and despite a certain group of people saying that it's only today's media that push for toys, older seasons did have heavy marketing for merchandise as well. A lack of some marketable toy is one reason why other shows like Garo and Kamen Rider Amazon stand out. Keep in mind that I said it's one reason, since another major selling point is the focus on mature storytelling and drama. That's not to say other media don't have those points either, but it's clearly emphasized with these, especially since Garo and Amazon's barely have any collectible toy to speak of. In fact, it's why producer Shinichiro Shirakura wanted such a different take on Kamen Rider in the first place. He overlooked production on Kamen Rider Amazons because he felt that modern Kamen Rider wasn't interesting, pointing out the contrast between early Heisei's darker themes. I don't think I'd argue with that, considering he was the one that pushed Kamen Rider Ryuki to be the way it is, a drama with no true hero. I like to think that everything happens for a reason. Every blooper, every camera angle, every detail for a toy. Though that last one can be boiled down to, well, money. But they have to be marketed somehow, since merchandise has to be something someone will buy. And of course, they have to be sold at the right time frame, the right era, to the right audience. Or does it? Researching for this video made me see a kind of domino effect happening when it came to producing Kamen Rider Build. One of the producers, Takahito Omori, stated that much of his inspiration came from the original Kamen Rider from 1971, and that should be fairly obvious with the main characters, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I do want to bring up that there's a certain charm to the Showa era that just can't be replicated today, and I can definitely say the same about early Heisei. Each era and phase has their own style that blend together, and in some ways that still applies in a comparison between seasons like Kamen Rider Double and Kamen Rider Ex-Aid. They may look completely different in a lineup, but their styles can overlap in ways you wouldn't think of. However, the most different show in Heisei Phase 2, at least to me, is Kamen Rider Build. Well, it better be, because that's how it was produced and planned from the very beginning. Have the drama of Phase 1, the style of Phase 2, plus a light touch of Showa, and you'll get Kamen Rider Build. At first that seems completely implausible and I didn't believe it at first either, but you'll see when we dive deeper. So, a lot of people really liked Kamen Rider Ex-Aid, huh? Yeah, it did very well for itself. So naturally, Toei took some pieces that worked and added a few of those ideas for the next season, Kamen Rider Build. I remember seeing a glimpse of Build for the first time as it was spreading through Twitter. It was what I assumed to be a picture taken from someone's phone, showing Build in his hedgehog tank form. The funny part was that it was super low quality and I felt a little weird about it at first, then just a few moments later, the poster was shown. This was our first real look into Kamen Rider Build. There was the official poster showing Rabbit Tank, and I thought it was okay. I actually wasn't all that interested and I wasn't expecting to watch a trailer or anything. Weird considering I was making content by that point and I should have been more up to date. Normally I do follow everything I can for a season's run, including their magazine scans and rumor mills, but for Build, I was mostly out of the loop. For some reason, it just didn't interest me all that much. At most, I knew what Build looked like, and that its opening theme would be performed by Beverly, until September 3rd, 2017, when Kamen Rider Build finally aired. I hopped onto Discord with a few friends, and we were brought to Mars of all places. An astronaut was sent on a mission and came back with Pandora's box. There was a ceremony for his return, when a man ran up to the box, causing a wall to split Japan into 3 nations, Hokuto, Seito, and Toto. Our story takes place in Toto, where investigative reporter Sawa Takigawa meets with Himuru Gentoku, assistant to Toto's prime minister. Though the skywalls aren't the only things to worry about, as monsters called Smash have been appearing. Luckily, there's a certain red and blue Kamen Rider that's brought it upon himself to save others. He's Sento Kiryu, genius physicist, that lives in the basement of Cafe Nashita. I hope I was saying that right. Its owner, Shoichi Tsurugi, has a daughter, Misora, who has the power to turn the Smash's essence into a brand new toy. Quite literally, since Sento is as happy as a child to get a new power. Sento is an amnesiac that was taken in by Tsurugi and now has to pay rent since his bill has been racking up. So Tsurugi points him towards an institute where Gentoku works at, and where Pandora's box is kept. Oh, I said that all in one take. Woo. Aside from the Smash, there's one more problem that popped up. A convict, Banjo Ryuga, is on the run after being accused for the murder of Takumi Katsuragi. But the worst part is that you can actually buy Banjo's dirty shirt on Premium Bandai for $50. Coincidentally, Sento finds Banjo and they have a small civilian fight, with Banjo holding his own since he was a professional fighter, but Sento showing off the power of his full bottles. Then a Smash appears, and the moment we've been building up for has finally arrived.
Oh my god! Encase the boy!
Because this season has no bad designs. Yeah, I said it. Zero. Nothing. Every single suit is amazing. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, just know that Sento is able to mix and match his powers using the bottles, giving him different sides to his suit.
No! Oh my god!
Gentoku finds Banjo and is prepared to arrest him, but Banjo's cry of innocence gets to Sento, making the decision to go on the run with this escaped convict, whose fly happened to be down the entire time. That's not just a one-off joke either. It was actually down during their fight earlier too. Alright, so that was the end of episode 1, and we obviously have a very long way to go. But if you're new and you're already intrigued with the show, then I'm going to stop here for a second just to tell you to go out and watch Build. At the time of this video, there is no official word on a full series release outside of Japan, but Google is your friend. The reason why I stopped so suddenly is because I once said before that talking anything past Build's main synopsis is basically a spoiler. At first, it was a bit of an exaggeration, but rewatching the season showed me that the best way to experience Build is with a completely blind watch-through, and as I said during Gaim plus countless other times, these videos shouldn't be used as a substitute for counting as a watch for the season. I left out quite a bit from episode 1 alone, and despite this video series being a couple hours long, there will still be a lot more I leave out specifically for you to experience. After all, I only go through the basic beats while giving some info and review here and there. Alright? Alright. I will be giving one more warning later on before well, you'll see. But from here on, let's get into the rest. 3, 2, 1. Banjo Ryuga was accused of murdering Takumi Katsuragi, a scientist that worked under Gentoku. The weird part is that Banjo only remembers entering Katsuragi's house and finding somebody's dead body there, though he couldn't be sure if it was Takumi's corpse. Then Banjo was kidnapped and experimented on by a Batman, or a guy dressed in a bat costume, but the literal translation would be a Batman. A man who's a bat. Batted man. Man-bat. He looks cool. And Sento saved Banjo because Sento was once experimented on too and wanted some answers, though Banjo's girlfriend, Kasumi, just got kidnapped by the batted man, who introduces himself as Night Rogue. Banjo recognizes this Smash as Kasumi, but Night Rogue says that Banjo's hazard level is only at level 1, so he has no chance of defeating a Smash, and Kasumi had a different experimentation where if Sento tried taking her essence, she would die. Banjo accepts her fate and lets Sento do what he must. Kasumi says her goodbye and gets turned into a marketable toy, the Dragon Full Bottle. Did Shoichi just turn that iPad into a back scratcher? Oh, real quick, I'm used to calling certain characters by their last names like Katsuragi and Shoichi, or Isurugi, although I should be saying Takumi and Isurugi Shoichi. Yes, he is confusing for me too, though it's just what I say. When other characters with similar names pop up, I'll make sure to differentiate as best as I can, but I've gotten comments on why I say certain names, so There you go. By the way, Sawa decides to help Sento since he accidentally dropped some Cafe Nashita merch when he saved her in episode 1. Yay. She finds a lead on a man who drugged Banjo in prison, a guard named Nabeshima, but he is in Seto and the only way to cross right now is by boat. Sawa and the disguised Banjo find a boat at the last minute but get surrounded by guardians, a kind of mechanical police force. Sento helps just in time, when Banjo finally asks why Sento is always willing to help those in need. Sento believes it's not just for answers on Night Rogue, he's been fighting Smash long before that motive. So Sento says, if you're expecting a reward, then it isn't justice. As Sawa and Banjo go out on their own, Sento later confronts Gentoku about the Skywall. During the ceremony, 2 panels from Pandora's box seemingly disappeared, but a red villain similar to Night Rogue decides to have some fun with Sento. This is Bloodstock. Though some romanizations might say Bloodstark, it's actually Bloodstock with an L. Nabeshima, who Sawa and Banjo were looking for, was turned into a Smash, so Sento takes the essence and Nabeshima back to the cafe. Nabeshima doesn't remember much of anything, not even his own daughter, but he does remember the organization Faust, who Bloodstock and Night Rogue are a part of. While being experimented on, Nabeshima saw part of the wall looking similar to a panel in the basement. Isurugi comes home from work and hears banging in the cafe. Sento is breaking the wall that held a panel.
ファウストのメンバーなのか
Of course not. Could a villain really be this handsome? Misora became a shut-in because Faust has been looking for Isurugi. He was the astronaut that brought back Pandora's box and he was the one who unleashed the Skywalls. But it was merely an accident. Yeah, an accident. So after causing all that trouble, Isurugi and Misora wanted to lay low. With that settled, Sento gets more news, but this is from someone who actually remembers him. Apparently they were in a band and Sento's real name was Sato Taro. Sento Kiryu being a name that Isurugi gave him when he found him.
戦車の戦にウサギでセントバーバー桐生だったからそんなに言う
Though Sento finds out the truth. Yeah, he was in a band. There's even him with punk hair right there. The last thing the band member mentions is how Sato Taro decided to take a job and never returned. Banjo had the bright idea to follow a Smash and find one of Faust's hideouts, which means another disguise, and Sento making a robot dragon to babysit Banjo. How cute. Bloodstock finds them and says how this is the place where Faust turned civilians into Smash, and it's also where Sento was experimented on, where he lost his memories. Oh look,
Sento.
he has that diamond thing on his forehead for something. It's a common design thing for writers to have those jewels, and they have some canonical explanations, but they're mostly meant for design. Amazing how it was actually used for once. More info is said in that Sato Taro arrived at his work location 1 hour before Banjo did, meaning that Sento is a suspect in killing Katsuragi. Plus, Bloodstock later says that Katsuragi was the one who founded Faust in the first place. Before my head starts spinning, one more bit of info is that Banjo and Sento find a USB left behind by Katsuragi, and within it is a dataset for Project Build, which is a kind of video diary where Katsuragi explains his inventions, such as the build driver and the Trans steam gun. He created full bottles using nebula gas that excretes from the skywall, and their effects can change depending on someone's hazard level. A fight with Night Rogue and Bloodstock showed that Banjo's hazard level was increasing really fast, already reaching level 3, and that gives Sento an idea for Banjo to synchronize his robot dragon with a build driver. But it doesn't last long because the dragon burns Banjo's body. Sento thinks it's because Banjo doesn't have an emotional bond, the feeling to truly help someone. Without that, Banjo would never be a writer. Banjo is feeling down, so he visits Kasumi's grave and finds a letter. She apologizes for everything and only wishes for Banjo to forget her and move on, to help others as she watches from heaven. With that, Banjo finds his resolve to save those in need and transform.
Hissing!
This is Kamen Rider Cross, spelled with a hyphen Z. Now, I know what some of you are gonna say, but most thought that this writer was named Claus because it was one way of reading the katakana. However, the official romanization was shown to be Cross with a hyphen Z. I know, sometimes the romanization can be misspelled even by Toei. Anyone remember Gourd Drive? But those mishaps are few and very far between. Plus, Cross was shown in Detail of Heroes, which is where most info and official spellings are found. In Japanese, you could say Kurazu, or simply Kuros. Then in English, it would be Cross. But why is there a hyphen with a Z and why is it considered silent? It just looks cool, I guess. Much like Putotira being Oza's final form, I go by whatever officially comes from Toei, and I've seen countless times that it's crossed with a silent Z and not claws. I've been saving that forever, so let's just move on. Sawa turned out to be a smash from Banjo's debut fight as Kamen Rider Cross, and she admits that she was a spy from Nanba Heavy Industries, who are big enough that none of the other nations want to deal with them. Sawa was sent to gather information on Kamen Rider Build to weaponize the Rider system, so she snuck into the cafe and pretended to be Sento's ally. But it's okay now, she apologized and wants to do better. Yay. Gentoku's assistant, Utsumi, helps Sento by showing him a secret floor in the lab where he works. Hidden on this floor are a couple of panels and bottles, but then Night Rogue makes an appearance and decides to take the fall for Toto. Although, this Night Rogue has a different voice, because it's actually Utsumi. The real Night Rogue is Gentoku. And he set up Utsumi to shoot him. Utsumi is painted as a traitor to the nation of Toto, and Sento is left back at square one. Okay, so we know about Night Rogue, but what about Bloodstock? It's about time we find out, but Isurugi is acting a little strange.
なんであんたが俺には壮大な計画があってね上血
Can I just say how amazing this twist is? Isurugi being Bloodstock? I knew a villain could be as stylish as him, though I think it's funny that a twist like this was spoiled by Toei on their own website. Whoops.
Sento
Trusted Isurugi and took on the job at the lab that Isurugi pointed him to, because that's where Katsuragi worked, and he founded Faust along with Project Build. So Sento would know more about these weapons created for war. Oh my gosh. What the heck? Except Sento did have something in mind for a moment like this. A new power-up.
Rabbit's tank sparkling! Rabbit's tank sparkling!
With that, Sento is left with his own thoughts about the day Isurugi found him in an alleyway, on a rainy night similar to this. Back to square one. Some time ago, Kamen Rider Build entered Kamen Rider Heisei's world and stole that rider's essence, but Build was being followed. To Sento, this just seemed like a dream, until Misora comes out with new full bottles, Doctor and Game. Banjo is having a tough time thinking about why Sento fights as a Kamen Rider, and Sento only says he fights for love and peace. He also wants to show off a new power-up item, the Sparkling Bottle. New monsters start attacking, but these aren't Smash, they're Nebula Bugsters. So Sento fights back using the new bottles. Banjo is confronted by a pseudo-rider who shows him Enigma, a machine that could travel to parallel universes, including one where the Skywall never existed. The worlds collide and some recognizable characters peer out at the inevitable destruction. Now it's up to Sento and Banjo, with the help of Emu Hojo and even more legendary writers, to put a stop to Enigma. This is Heisei Generation's final. I've said before that the original Heisei Generations is my favorite Kamen Rider movie ever, because it fit a perfect balance with our main focus, X8 and Ghost, while sprinkling in other writers with an overall great story and some of the best action in the franchise. What about the follow-up? Well, I think Heigen Final is really good. Not my top 5 or anything, but it's good. While Drive X Ghost and the original Heigen had a good balance with their characters, Heigen Final is mostly a build story that happened to have legend writers. Now that's not entirely a bad thing, especially since the next crossover movie does it even worse, but as much as I like build, I would have liked a little bit more of everyone else too. There are way more build elements here than X8 had in the Pac-Man movie, but this story also has a lot of character development for Banjo, as well as explaining certain plot points in Build's story, such as Katsuragi first working with another organization before joining Faust, and it's where the basis for the Chan steam gun came from. This man, Mogami Kaisei, also worked with Isurugi on finding parallel worlds, but when Katsuragi joined Faust, Kaisei threw a tantrum and accidentally split himself into two, creating Right and Left Kaiser, the pseudo-writers. The more mind-blowing revelation is that the Bill who traveled to X8's world wasn't Sento, but Katsuragi himself. So then, why does Sento have the Doctor and game bottles? Very interesting. Team Build and X8 intertwine as Banjo explores a Skywall-less world and interacts with the Doctor Riders. Remember that a certain someone chased after Build when Emu's powers were stolen, and that someone, Parado, finally meets up with Sento.
お前赤った方の仮面ライダーお前もだ
Parad and Emu are able to communicate through the bottles, so Emu wonders where Parad has been for the past couple of weeks. But to Parad, it wasn't weeks. It was 2 years. Now I know this is supposed to be a sad moment, but I keep going back to the time Momotaros was a hobo for 4 months. Since X8 can't transform, he gets help from Kami-sama to make build gashats. From here on, it's both sides journeying to confront the Kaisers as the worlds begin to collapse. We do get glimpses of some side characters, such as Onari, which must mean that our first returning legend writer is the coconut head of friendship.
君は
But there are 2 other people, a journalist and a teacher, who are watching nearby, as well as someone who appears to be a vagabond. A surprise return is this Black X. I know that seems generic, but this is Foundation X, another organization that's been popping up ever since Kamen Rider Double. What do they do exactly and how are they still around? Good question. But I love that they're like this secret threat who we know nothing about. I just think that's kinda cool. Oh right, since the worlds are colliding, some catastrophes are happening, such as crevices opening up right beneath Banjo. Luckily, he has someone there to reach out.
絶対に助けるこの手が届く限り
Our friendly wanderer with no catchphrase has returned, Eiji Hino. Banjo continues to ask himself why he fights as a Kamen Rider, and Emu says that he likes to see the smile of his patients, and Eiji agrees with that sentiment. Foundation X brought Kaisei some old gifts, core medals and astro switches, which he uses to summon greed. Eiji has been holding on to his own broken medal of an old friend, and as he says, he'll always be there to help.
Eiji 相変わらずボロボロだな
The journalist and teacher are friends of a former Amanagawa High alumni, who's now a teacher too. It's Kisaragi Gentaro, who still has his driver despite what happened in Wizard X Forze. That's because the director forgot about that detail, but later said that this takes place before those events. I think it's kind of funny that certain plot holes are quote-unquote forgotten, but I guess that's just how it goes. It's almost time for Enigma to activate, and it's time to show our final legend rider.
カズラバコータ仮面ライダーガイムだ
Now both Enigma machines are gonna collide with both worlds, Build and X8 teaming up, then it's time for our riders to transform. Well, unfortunately, they don't all transform together because most of these returning actors can only shoot one scene. Still, at least we got Sento and Emu together. Now this is why I love Kamen Rider. Sure, Superhero Tyson can show over 500 suits on screen, but I like knowing that there are actual characters beneath these suits. We see each Legend Rider at least once out of suit. They have interactions with others showing that they're still those amazing characters we grew to love. I'm not the biggest fan of Ghost, but I love seeing Takaru talk to Emu again, or Eiji telling Banjo what it means to be a Kamen Rider. And of course...
世界の運命は決まってるから
This movie also shows why I love tokusatsu in general. Yes, the special effects will always be cheesy, and the speeches of fighting for love and peace will always be corny, but they mean something to me. The special effects look cool to me regardless, and the lines of heroism shows that anyone can stand for what's right. Not to mention that amazing action with all the riders going into their all-out transformations, and Ankh giving Eiji one more push. Then what ties everything together is Banjo finally realizing what it means to be a Kamen Rider. It's fighting for what's right, fighting for love and peace. I still absolutely adore those little moments with these characters. Eiji seeing Ankh again almost made me tear up, even if I had a wrong prediction a long time ago.
I really hope he shows up for Heisei Generations, the final.
Probably not. Though I think Eiji has a catchphrase now. His recognizable quote was saying, "Say ya!" during fights, but now he says that he'll be the hand to reach out and help, which is nice. And yeah, the action is still as amazing as ever. My favorite little detail has to be when Gentaro says Uchu Kita and Jake is doing the pose too. Oh, that's so cute. Oh look, the Doctor Riders are using their weapons out of suit. That's just amazing. See, there are so many scenes that I adore, I can't possibly say them all, and there's plenty I didn't go over. I guess my only critique being that this is basically a build movie that I can't recommend unless you want to be spoiled by the other writers, since their own show's plot points are brought up too, but honestly, it's a great movie regardless. Wait, who's that? It should be obvious that I love Heisei Generations Final, and I think it sits comfortably, not in my top 5, but at least my top 10.
What's up? I'm DJ Azure, the 2.5D Hero Talkatuber, here to talk to you about Kamen Rider Build. There's a lot to talk about Kamen Rider Build, like how there's not a bad suit at all, the story just keeps endlessly moving, how amazing Evolt is as a villain, but, you know, you could just let others see it when they watch the show for themselves. I recently rewatched it with my community, and it cemented itself as one of the 2 Heisei series I refuse to recommend as someone's first watch, the other being Gaim. The heights of quality that both Gaim and Build make it really hard to trick my friends into watching more, because once you show those two, you can't really say, oh, there's other series that are just as good. There's high praise, yes, but what I really want to choose to focus on is not on that, because I don't want to just recap the story. I want to talk about the characters and how they color the show and keep you watching. I've always said the quality of the supporting cast and his villains makes or break a series. Wizard has an amazing secondary in Beast. Forze has the KRC. Drive has Hard Sama. There are examples of great secondary casts that make series, while we have some misses like Shunpei in Wizard and Anari Dakari in Ghost. That being said, there's not really a bad character in Build. All the characters are good, and good characters lead to good interactions. A big part of this may be the fact that there are teams in Build. The way these circles interact are at the core of the story, but of the characters themselves, I mean, we had the Brains and Brawn duo of the boyfriends. I mean, main rider and secondary rider of Sento's Build and Banjo's Cross Z. We have Gentoku before and after his shift. If there's a running theme here, it seems that there's multiple distinct sides to every single person, with how Sento is Satotaro and Katsuragi. The point is, there's not just character development, there's multiple sides that we get to see interact, which multiplies the amount of types of interactions we get with everyone. So with the factions and multiple characters in one, it's no wonder that I find the characters to be the strongest part of Build. Adding the amazing suits, compelling mystery, the banging soundtrack, the fun collectible toys. It's become a series that I show as one of the peaks of Kamen Rider, and I build up to whenever I persuade my friends into getting to Rider Hell with me. But yeah, that's all for now. I'm DJ Azure, the 2.5D Hero Talkatuber. You can find me at Twitch at DJ Azure, no space, or DJ_Azure on Twitter. Later.
Gentoku and his men are after Pandora's box, but Isurugi warned the others about Gentoku being Night Rogue, so now they're hiding out in a warehouse. Sento meets up with him and Gentoku says that there's a certain project he's after. something called Sclash. It was one of Katsuragi's old projects that turned bottle essences into gel, which can be more powerful than the build driver system. Sento and the group get cornered at the warehouse, but Toto's prime minister arrests Gentoku, his own son. Though Gentoku has one more revelation. Sento is not who he appears to be, because Katsuragi is alive, and now goes by Sento Kiryu. 1 year ago, Katsuragi had a talk with Bloodstock about leaving Faust, but Bloodstock didn't like that and knocked him out. Then Sato Taro arrived to work and Bloodstock killed him, replacing Katsuragi's face with Sato Taro. Isurugi called the police and pinned the crime on a newly arriving Banjo Ryuga, who was told about this place by Kasumi. That's when Bloodstock erased Sento's memories and found him in the alleyway. Banjo pieces it together and says that everything started because of Sento, the drivers, the smash, and even Kasumi's death. Sento feels guilty and feels like his life is a lie. Toto's prime minister gets poisoned by Bloodstock, so Gentoku decides to take over, leading him to call the other nations to fight for Pandora's box. More Guardians and Smash start to appear, but Sento is too lost in thought to fight back. Banjo says that Sento is now his own person. He isn't Takumi Katsuragi or Sato Taro, he's Sento Kiryu, genius physicist. Meanwhile in Hokuto, 3 men watch as Banjo and Sento team up to fight the Smash, but these men are waiting on their boss, a golden Kamen Rider. Things are heating up, but first, I'm not sure if you've noticed with my general summary of Chapter 1, but the, let's say, atmosphere of build seems a bit familiar. Maybe you'd recognize it if you watched some of Heisei Phase 1, because episodes 1 through 16, which I just covered, was written to be closer to that early feel, but not without complications. Producer Omori was aware of how fast news and speculation traveled online, so he wanted as much story as possible in these first 16 episodes. That way it would be more difficult to theorize. Build's head writer, Shogamuto, became a fan of Phase 1 Kamen Rider because he watched it with his son, and he wanted to write a show that both kids and adults can enjoy. That's not to say past seasons aren't enjoyed by adults, but they're mainly meant for children and toy sales, but this time Build was made to be a drama first, specifically to grow its audience. Older fans are going to recognize Ichigo's influence with Sento being a human experiment, but new viewers would be interested in a modern iteration, which was a big point in writing for Build, having modern twists to old ideas. A couple specific examples from Shotomuto was having a runaway criminal and a character starting with amnesia, though amnesia came from the idea that having a quote-unquote genius character from the start wouldn't allow for growth. Luckily, Banjo wasn't written to be a genius physicist either, like how it was first planned. Some influences from X8 were having more pseudo-writers like the Kaisers, Night Rogue, and Bloodstock. A lot of X8's writers were lone wolves that fought for themselves until way later, so Banjo would become an ally from the start, and many mix and match gimmicks from X8 were more clear influences. Though producer Omori knew that having so many gimmicks might water down the story, and to make things more focused, he wanted to write around the Pandora panels, which can hold all the bottle gimmicks. That's a pretty clever workaround. Oh, fun fact, in the Korean dub of Build, Japan was changed to a different island. There's a whole other history of why, but I figured it would be interesting to bring up. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was the theme of war and politics in Build's second chapter. Those are the most obvious themes, but an even bigger one that Omori wanted to focus on was the lack of economic growth during that time. There was some initial hesitation because of how deep these themes of human experimentation and war can be, but hey, that's what Chapter 2 is for. Because now, this is the end of Build Chapter 1, as the battle for Pandora's box between Toto, Hokuto, and Seito has begun.
仮面ライダービルドこの後すぐ
イソラのやつすげえな。ああでなんでピエロなんだよ。男女がお前とデートしたいって。
はあ
何回もデートするってどういうこと？
ミソラ
デートしよう。
仮面ライダービルドこの後すぐ
I think a whole video can be made on how many times I remind myself that Kamen Rider has always been a kid show, and adults can still enjoy it anyway. Now I just hope I don't have to say that this kid show is also an art form, Because it's a TV show, and like any other kind of art, it can be interpreted in any way you like. It can be as simple as, good guy defeats bad guy. Or you can see something deeper with how Japanese events were at the time of writing Kamen Rider Build. I'd say it's all valid. I'm the type of guy that would rather look at the surface level of these shows, so I just quickly wanted to tell you guys to interpret Chapter 2 as you want. Alright? Alright. War has broken out between Toto and Hokuto as Seito watches. The full power of Pandora's box will be unleashed if all 60 bottles are collected. Toto has 20, and the other nations have the rest. However, it won't be easy to get the bottles, since 3 men, who call themselves the Hokuto Crow Trio, appear as new adversaries to Sento and Banjo. Real quick, their name in Japanese is Hokuto Sanmagurasu, which generally means Hokuto 3 birds, or crows, and the subs I use call them the Crow Trio, which I like the most out of all the translations I've seen. Just wanted to clear that up in case you've heard it differently. These men are able to transform into hard smashes without losing control of themselves, and their hazard level beats out the Toto riders, so Sento has been working on Katsuragi's new system, the Sclash driver. Banjo is more than willing to try it out since the Dragon Jelly was already prepared. However, Sento now refuses to be used as a tool of war. Katsuragi may have created the build and Sclash systems for military use, but Sento wants to be far from that, and Miss Sora shares the same feelings. The Hokuto Crow Trio interrupts them, and like before, Sento is too weak to fight back. So Banjo arrives with the Sclash driver. This season has no bad designs. Yeah, I said it. 0. Nothing. Every single suit is amazing. Oh look, a stranger walks into the battle holding onto his own Sclash driver. This is Kamen Rider Grease, the boss of the Hokuto Crow Trio. Sawa later finds that his name is Kazumi Sawatari, a potato farmer whose agriculture business was destroyed when the Skywalls formed. So he and 3 of his workers volunteered to undergo experimentation to become Smash, or in Kazumi's case, a Kamen Rider. Kazumi is a no-nonsense type of guy, but still willing to sacrifice what little he has to protect those closest to him. At one point, there was another volunteer that wanted to be part of the trio, and even offered them all dog tags as a symbol of their bond. But Kazumi didn't want another inevitable sacrifice in this war. Kazumi accepted the dog tags as an offering to protect what's left of his farm and his workers. Well, geez, so much sacrifice, so much loss. Kazumi is just... What? What's a Mitan? Oh yeah. Mitan is Misora's pop idol-like persona, so then that means my man's a simp? Somewhere else in the shadows, we see a familiar face. Utsumi is back. He was saved by Bloodstock to be an ambassador for Nanba Heavy Industries. I know that seems random, and yeah, it really is, but I guess this had to be said somewhere. Anyway, Bloodstock later points out everyone's hazard levels, with Banjo already beating out Sento. Though the trio wish to become stronger too, so Bloodstock offers to give the trio more nebula gas, the caveat being that if they're ever defeated, then they're gone for good. Normally, riders and pseudo-riders are forced out of their transformations if they ever take too much battle damage, but with this power-up, being forced out means death. Kazumi would never want them to take an offer like this, so the trio agree without Kazumi's knowledge, saying that he sacrificed a lot for them and now they want to repay him. The trio are now Hazard Smashes, with a whole new look. Kazumi is rightfully annoyed by their transformation, and Banjo tries to fight back but he can't take on 4 enemies at once. Banjo is too hurt to move, though weirdly enough, Miss Sora is able to heal them with a touch. Elsewhere, Bloodstock decides to give Sento a little present left behind by Katsuragi, the Hazard Trigger. It'll give Sento enough power to fight the Hazard Smash. However, the longer the trigger is equipped, the more Sento will lose himself. Gentoku's next plan of attack has to do with how Faust has decided to work with Hokuto, meaning just Bloodstock since that's all Faust is at this point. So Gentoku wants the Toto riders to invade Hokuto. Of course, Sento refuses, and so does Toto's prime minister, who's back from the hospital after Bloodstock poisoned him. Banjo was already sent out to Hokuto before the prime minister could stop the invasion, and now Banjo is fighting the trio alone. With no other choice, Sento activates the hazard trigger.
Hazard on! Super Smash!
And stop. This is the second and last time I'll warn you that if any of this has interested you at all, even as a passing thought, then please watch Kamen Rider Build. From here on, things are going to change further than before, and I'll even say now that what's coming is one of my favorite moments in Tokusatsu. Once again, Google is your friend. Alright? Alright. 3, 2, 1. Kamen Rider Build Hazard easily overtakes the trio, as well as Sento's mind. Sento loses control of himself and grabs one of the trio. War always has loss and sadness, but Sento couldn't prepare himself for this. He only wanted to protect his town and those closest to him, but ended up killing someone. Kazumi says that this is war, loss should be expected, but even he feels the sadness that was left behind. This one casualty was still a person with something to fight for. He had a dream, a name, Shuya Aikawa, nicknamed Aoba. Sento loses the will to fight. He gives up his bottles to the government and no longer wishes to do anything. Hokuto continues to fight on Toto's land, and the prime minister begs Sento for help, but Sento has fallen too deep into despair. It seems Sento has fallen into depression, not willing to do much of anything. Even when offering flowers at Aoba's grave, he still sees images of the one he killed. Shoichi goes to Sento, calling him naive for thinking that there wouldn't be any casualties, and that the war will get worse without him. A proxy battle is set up between Hokuto and Toto. Each nation will have a Kamen Rider representative to fight, and the winner will get Pandora's box. Although, Isurugi takes pity on Sento, letting him vent out all his anger on him. Then the proxy battle begins, with Sento taking over for Toto. From Sento using the hazard trigger to the start of the proxy battle was episode 21, one of my favorite episodes in the entire Kamen Rider franchise. The cinematography, the drama, the raw emotion, it's all masterful. Made a little funnier knowing that Sento's actor stayed up all night playing Monster Hunter to give himself a tired look for these episodes. I'm aware that Kamen Rider has always been a kid show since the beginning. Yes, there can be mature themes, and yes, absolutely adults can enjoy it too. But some people seem to want to justify watching a kid show when there are quote-unquote darker moments or darker seasons. I've already had a mini rant during History of Amazons about how dark and edgy themes are overblown by certain people. But then there comes episodes from Kamen Rider Build. I don't think I have a bias towards uplifting versus darker seasons, since I really only care if a show is good. But watching episode 21 of Build honestly impresses me, admittedly a lot more than it should. I guess my main point here is that we should enjoy these kinds of episodes, since it's not too often we get them. Let's just not forget that this is still a kid's show. Though I will say that to me, episode 21 of Build is a masterpiece in itself. From here I'm gonna bring up the 7 Best Matches special. These were 3 mini episodes that were uploaded to Toei's YouTube channel, and I've really been enjoying Toei embracing other forms of release. even if I don't have much else to say. The 7 Best Matches episodes showcase several build forms, including Smartphone Wolf Hazard. I wish there were unique jingles for Hazard matches, but that might have been too much. Oh yeah, this special is also where Sento meets Itsumi again. Much like any other Hyper Battle video, 7 Best Matches isn't a necessary watch, but it's fun regardless. Speaking of HBVs, earlier I mentioned one of Kazumi's workers that gave him dog tags. Those clips were from the Hyper Battle video, Kuma Televi vs Greece. Again, not necessary, but fun. It does give a little more backstory on Kazumi and the Hokuto Crow trio. So if you're interested, then I'd absolutely recommend it. Plus, HBVs are always funny, and this time, Sento's TV form broadcasts a woman wearing a TV explaining Kazumi's backstory. Oh, Kamen Rider. Back to the show, we have Sento win the proxy battle. Duh. Which means, once again, Toto is saved. Thanks to... However, now it's Sato's turn to fight, and they have their own Kamen Rider. Sato's prime minister declares war on Toto, and they've taken over Kazumi's farm. One of the trio, well, I guess now duo, go to protect the farm, but then 2 other men appear. They're the Hell Bros. No relation to the other Hell Bros from Kabuto. Well, technically, one is called Remicon Bros and the other is Engine Bros, and they fuse to become Hell Bros. But that's a lot of bros, so I'm just gonna call them the Hell Bros, bro. You might recognize their design being similar to the Kaisers from Heigen Final, and that's because Nanba Heavy Industries used technology from Faust and Heisei, which is some nice continuity, and a good way to save money since they're repaints. While I was explaining all that, the Hell Bros took in one of the trio and Kazumi barely makes it to save him. However, Kiba takes a shot for Kazumi and begins to fade. Kazumi doesn't have time to mourn, as he laid a trap for the Hell Bros to follow him out of Hokuto to fight. A battle ensues with the Riders and the Bros, then a new Kamen Rider steps into the shadows. And he alone is able to take on 3 riders at once. But who could he be? As told in the Kamen Rider Rogue miniseries, just called Rogue, Gentoku has always tried to do what's best for the nation, even if others don't see it that way. Then he crossed paths with the scientist, Takumi Katsuragi, who was working on the Rider and Trans steam gun systems. Everything seemed to be going well until Gentoku met Itsurugi, who told him the story of Faust. It's an old German tale about a man who made a deal with the devil, selling his own soul for knowledge. Time after time, Gentoku's ideas were shot down, so together with Katsuragi and Itsurugi, they founded the organization Faust. Then after being banished from Toto, Gentoku was locked up for experimentations. However, the Sclash system combined with the crocodile bottle was too powerful for anyone to handle, except for Gentoku. Now he joins Sato as an act of revenge against those who'd done him wrong. Wow, all that sounds really cool, right? Well, I think it's cool. But honestly, the Rogue miniseries is kind of the low point in build for me. Not that it's bad or anything, I absolutely love the backstory we get, but it's just kind of boring. Luckily, it's only 3 episodes and there are some amazing parts in it. Although I personally wouldn't really recommend it unless you're really that interested. It also has that one moment where there's blood and some people are like, wow, Kamen Rider is really dark. Definitely not for kids when it's a special and not in the mainline series so they could get away with it. But I digress. Around this time is when there would be a spring special, which is normally a crossover with Super Sentai. As much as I don't like Lupin Ranger vs Pat Ranger, I still would have loved to see a crossover, though I think I can see why there wasn't one in the first place. Build was already on a tight schedule as is, and Lupat was dealing with its own issues at the time, so it's easier to just not film a crossover. There does exist a Loop Pad full bottle toy, which implies there maybe would have been one that was planned out at some point, then later scrapped. That's more of an educated guess since I haven't found any official word on it, but back to the show. Since Gentoku is back as an adversary, Kazumi decides to help out Sento and Banjo, though now he wants to be called Kazumin. Okay, I swear, I researched both English and Japanese sites, asked a couple of Japanese friends, I looked up the name, and that only led me to Konosuba for some reason. I don't know what that is. And I still don't understand what the Kazumin ending with an N means. The closest I can think of is that he's shipping himself with Miton and combining their names ending with an N, but I feel like there's more to it than that. I know I'm going over this more than I should, but I've always been so curious on why Kazumin, though that's what I'll call him from now on since I do think it sounds nicer. Hey, it's post-editing Marcosatsu here with a quick update. While editing the script, Liz sent me something saying that adding an N to a name that ends with an I makes the name more cutesy for like a younger boy, similar to a nickname. And I guess that makes sense, but I like my theory better. During a battle against Gentoku, Misora begins to sleepwalk towards the riders. Then she awakens with green eyes. She's able to throw Gentoku through the skywall, and she mentions someone named Evolt, or in Japanese, Evolto. Misora passes out, with the only clues being her bangle, and something called Pandora's Tower. Sento looks through Misora's mind, using science or something, and sees Pandora's Tower being destroyed on Mars, thinking that this is a possible warning about what could happen on Earth. To make matters worse, Gentoku is on a rampage and the next victim of the war is Akaba, the last of the Hokuto Crow trio. Sento goes into build Hazard to fight off Gentoku, but Misora gets in the way, letting the power of a second rabbit essence basically purify Hazard. Oh, cool helmet shot. Sento's actor always liked Iron Man. Now Sato's Prime Minister wants his own proxy battle for Pandora's box, and this time it'll be a best of 3. First is Kazumin versus one of the Hellbros. Of course, Kazumin wins with the power of friendship. Next is Banjo versus the combined Hellbros, but one of them says that the other brother is held captive and will die if he loses the battle, so Banjo lets the brothers win, despite that being a lie. Man, Banjo's been getting the short end of the stick this chapter. The third battle is Sento versus Gentoku. Sento's been working on a way to control Hazard, and Misora kind of showed him the way by using a second rabbit bottle. Now Sento can become Build Hazard RabbitRabbit. What a weird name now that I'm saying it out loud.
Build up. Overflow.
There's been a spy within Team Build, and who else could it be but Sawa? She was trained under Nanba Heavy Industries, just like the Hellbros. Though now she has a change of heart. Again. And wants to help the riders. Again. Since Nabashima's family was taken captive. Again. So she and Sento plan on a way to get Nabashima's family back, and trick Sato's side into thinking that RabbitRabbit was the only thing Sento had prepared. But Sento was hiding another form. With that, Gentoku is defeated. Toto is now free from both Hokuto and Sato. The war is over. However, Bloodstock then kills Sato's Prime Minister and changes Nanba's face. It appears that Bloodstock is still planning something, but we'll see his elaborate plan later as this ends Build Chapter 2. Alright, so, out of all the main criticisms I've heard about Build, is that its second half just drops in quality, specifically starting with Chapter 2, Episode 17 through 28. I'll admit, I added to that stigma, constantly saying that the first half was a masterpiece, so everything after could never reach that peak. That couldn't be further to one of my main phrases, opinions can change over time. To be more fair, I should have cut Build into thirds rather than 2 halves, because this show was written with 3 arcs, or chapters in mind, which is why the separate video titles are chapters rather than part 1 through 3. A few years ago, I definitely said that Build's quote-unquote second half was terrible, but I also said other strange things that I wouldn't say today. So over time, and after my rewatch, now I can more clearly say Chapter 2 is my favorite arc in Build, and I'll even go as far as saying that I think it's better written than Chapter 1. The summary may have been shorter than what I gave for the first part, but as always, I did leave out a lot, and this time, I definitely left out at least twice as much as I did before. I said previously that Chapter 1 was meant to have drama similar to Phase 1 Writer, so Chapter 2 was made to quote-unquote see powers fight it out. That can be taken literally, but I also see it in a figurative way. One point obviously being the theme of war and nations fighting, but I also think of Sento losing control of himself with the Hazard trigger, or Kazumine's struggle with his inner demons once the trio are killed, then later having no choice but to team up with the guy who killed Alba. We get deeper dives with these characters, which is why I prefer Chapter 2. That's not to say Chapter 1 is bad at all, since I still love it and it's fantastic, but I love the writing surrounding Sento and not wanting to be a tool for war, or Banjo learning about how fast his hazard level is rising, or the politics of Gentoku and his dad, Toto's prime minister. Now that I think about it, I will admit that Chapter 2 is oddly repetitive. First, Hokuto declares war, Kamen Rider greets as an adversary along with pseudo riders, and their invasion ends with a proxy battle. Then, Sato declares war, Kamen Rider Rogue is an adversary along with pseudo riders, and their invasion ends with a proxy battle. I honestly wouldn't consider it a negative, just an observation. If this was done 3 times in a row, then I'd be more annoyed, but man, I kind of didn't even notice the repetition at first because of how good the story was being told. I already said how episode 21 is one of my favorite episodes ever, but I do love basically everything else too. Sure, there are themes of war and politics, but those should be talked more in detail by someone smarter than I. Although I know especially in a current modern setting, politics aren't exactly something we talk about broadly, unless you're Twitter. Though one build producer said that the political themes we see in this arc were completely intentional, as a lack of economic growth were one of the biggest focuses. Some themes of human experimentation and war had a bit of hesitation too. While I do understand the basic storytelling, I also just kind of enjoy seeing Build Hazard fight Grease. Okay, I've probably gushed enough, and trust me, I have much more to praise later on, because we still have the last arc to go when we learn about a new threat named Evolt, and the possible end of the world, as the final battle for Pandora's Box begins in Kamen Rider Build Chapter 3.
するなら整理券買ってね。はい、5万ドルク。
安いっすね。あ、なんか10万払ったりしたら
出すのかよ。仮面ライダービルド、この後すぐ。
That was amazing. I'm really glad they used copyright-free music so I could cut all that together in the beginning. The gist is that Bloodstalk activated one side of Pandora's box to summon Pandora's tower out of the middle of the skywall. As if that wasn't bad enough, Sato's getting away with saying they won the proxy battle since it wasn't publicly broadcasted. Kazumine feels defeated and is prepared to leave.
握手券、写真撮影券、耳かき券。これだけあればグリス説得できるでしょ。
Until Misora's eyes turn green again and introduces herself as Vernage, the Queen of Mars. Back at the cafe, Vernage explains that Pandora's box was used by someone named Evolt to destroy Mars and that Banjo is someone special. The group tries to set everything straight. So basically, Vernage is the Queen of Mars and attached herself to Misora through the bangle. Evolt is planning to destroy Earth using Pandora's tower, which came from Pandora's box.
あ、いや、実は前々からこいつのことは気になってたんだ。お前、 俺に告白してる？してねえ。
And Banjo's early memories are fuzzy, though weirdly enough, he's able to create a new bottle that was encased within the dragon jelly, which gives Sento a new idea for another power-up. Then Toto announces that Kamen Rider Build has been charged with treason. Sento isn't allowed to act on his own since he fought for the government, so earlier he asked to borrow a doll arc from Toto's prime minister. Now with Sento acting on his own and not intending to give back the doll arc, he's committing treason. But of course, Kazumine and Banjo are with him too. Meanwhile, within Pandora's tower, Isurugi tries to take Pandora's box, but a voice stops him, showing us that Shoichi Isurugi was possessed the entire time. Our rider trio fight to the center of the tower, but Pandora's box is able to manipulate anything around them, even being able to change the setting to a beach where Gentoku appears. He secretly tells Sento how Nanba is disguised as Seto's prime minister, and Gentoku was chipped, which will kill him if he doesn't comply with Bloodstock. His final reveal is that Kasumi's death was planned in order for Banjo's hazard level to rise. Speaking of Banjo, Sawa looked into him and found some interesting information.
人間じゃないかもしれない。
Banjo was experimented on when he was a baby as his mom worked for Nanba Industries, and during the Mars mission, she very quickly became pregnant and gave birth to Banjo. So knowing that Banjo was special, a plan was made to increase his hazard levels and ultimately revealing that Banjo has alien DNA.
番長のこと調べてきたの。
プロテインラーメンベストマッチ。バンジョお前人間じゃねえって。あ？
Now with a whole new resolve to fight, whether it's as a human or an alien, Banjo activates a magma bottle, transforming into Cross Magma. Banjo Ryuga. Actually, Eiji Akaso, the actor behind this fantastic character. He was also in Kamen Rider Amazons as one of the side cast, and he was great in it, though I felt like he needed more of the spotlight, and well, here he is. Sento was meant to be a quote-unquote complete character with an almost finished arc from the beginning, which is why he was already set with power-ups and knows how to fight from the start. He would continue to evolve their mysteries, but for the most part, it's more plot-related than character-driven until way later. Banjo was then created to fill a void of character development while also being an answer to past seasons. He gave a modern twist how Shaka originally experimented on Takeshi Hongo in the Showa era. Banjo became a fast ally as a response to Heisei not having the writers be on friendly terms for a while. The quote-unquote modern twist was kind of a common theme surrounding the secondary writer, since one scriptwriter mentioned how having a runaway and an amnesiac protagonist weren't seen very often, as well as Build being written as a drama first to bring back adult viewers, while also having enough action for kids to enjoy. Also, the early chapter was intentionally made to feel like a Heisei Phase 1 show, so there you go. I believe a lot of these great writing elements can be seen through Banjo's story, from a runaway fighter obsessing over protein to fighting for love and peace. Banjo Ryuga, the Dragon Boy, is one of the best Kamen Riders ever. Cross Magma is cool too. The suit is based off Yamata no Orochi, which explains the magma snakes that I thought was weird for the longest time. His magma knuckle is a blast furnace, and if that isn't one of the most Kamen Rider things I've ever heard. Around the time of Cross Magma's debut, Sento finds what Evolt calls the ultimate driver, so Evolt kidnaps the Prime Minister and offers a trade. Sento finds info on the ultimate driver through Kasuragi's Project Build, now finding out that it's called the Evil Driver, and that Evolt the alien is actually Isurugi, who became possessed during the Mars mission. Evolt originally touched Pandora's box to destroy the world, but for an unknown reason, walls appeared instead. Katsuragi tried to hide away the Evil Driver as Misora's bottle machine, but his dad repaired it earlier and based the Build Driver off it. Team Build plans to save the Prime Minister, and Sento even saved Gentoku from his death chip, although Utsumi takes the Evil Driver and throws it to Isurugi, now showing himself as Kamen Rider Evolt Phase 1. So I just want to point out here real quick that there is a distinction between names. The katakana is different between Kamen Rider Eboru and the character Evolto. So it would simply be Kamen Rider Evol and the character is Evolt. The O is somewhat silent, so you can say Evolt or Evolto. Either way, I think it should be fine. The Prime Minister is dead now, by the way. You know what? I do agree with Banjo here. I know build is supposed to be a little more complicated than usual, but it's kind of a lot to keep up with too. Especially since Evol and Evolt sound incredibly similar, but it's a good thing I'm taking extensive notes. Otherwise, I'd be just as lost. Well, as fast as possible to get lost, Team Build confronts Evol again. And Banjo gets possessed, turning into Kamen Rider Evol Phase 2. Now the riders try to fight Evolt, but he manages to grab the Pandora panels to complete Pandora's box.
みんな無事でいてほしい。
ミータンと二人きり。いや、こんな時だからこそミータンには支えが必要なんじゃないか。エボルトだ。正解。
Pandora's tower creates destruction, and within the box is the Evolt trigger. Vernage explains that a member of Evol's race turned Mars into the red wasteland we all know, and it was Vernage who stripped Evol of all his power, creating the Evolt driver and trigger. With not much else left, Sento begins to work on a leftover panel to push the limits of the rider system. Sento confronts Evol again, but Sento maxes out his hazard level to destroy both himself and Evolt. However, what's left behind is Evol Phase 3. Banjo is back to normal, albeit losing his alien DNA to Evol. Despite losing a part of himself, Banjo grabs his dragon bottle, evolving further into Great Cross Dragon. Then immediately goes into Magma. Great Cross caused scheduling to be thrown off a bit, which you might notice since some of the pacing feels awkwardly placed together. Though producer Omori wanted this upgrade to showcase Banjo's power scale, which I get, but this literally came out of nowhere. Supposedly it was from Banjo's willpower, but why? Oh, no wait, I almost forgot. It's easy toy money since it's an easy repaint. Though the riders all fight Evolt together, allowing the Evolt trigger to activate, creating Kamen Rider Evol Black Hole form. Luckily, Sento is back, except it's not Sento, it's Katsuragi. He gets caught up with everything that's happened, and he's taking it well. Meanwhile, Utsumi receives his own Evol driver. Now that Nanba died by Evol's hands, Utsumi remembers all their times together, then snaps Nanba's cane and becomes Kamen Rider Mad Rogue. I kinda like this suit, but why did Be the One have to play over this scene? Yeah, I know it's because they didn't play the opening for this episode, but I don't know, it could have been anything else but the happy Be the One, you know, I'm sure you get it. All hope seems lost, though Katsuragi continues Sento's plan and creates what he calls the Genius Bottle. Katsuragi steps out into battle, even with his own transformation. He tries to use the Genius Bottle, but it denies Katsuragi, believing that Katsuragi didn't want to truly protect lives, but Sento did.
桐生セントはな、
So Katsuragi and Sento talk it out. They should connect as one mind instead of splitting their personalities. The egotistic superhero arrives and transforms into Kamen Rider Build Genius. Did anybody get Jojolian vibes from that previous scene? It couldn't be just me, right? Spoilers for JoJo's Part 8, I guess. Whoops. So, I didn't really like Build Genius at first since, well, just like everyone else, I thought it was super ugly with way too much going on. All those bottles glued to him, all those colors, it looks stupid. And now, I absolutely love it. Hey wait, where's Gentoku? Yeah, this is weird. Gentoku's actor asked if he could be more lighthearted as a request for his kids. Not to be a new silly version of Dan Kuroto or anything. And I kinda think it works. Gentoku's dad is gone. He wanted to try something new, and I get it. Maybe you'd want to change yourself after a traumatic event, and this was for his kid. Though, I don't think Gentoku has the look to be comedic. Maybe it's because he still has that evil beard. Oh look, there's a mini arc here about Katsuragi's dad coming back and is a secondary villain. Yeah, that's it. Yep, nothing else to talk about. There is an explanation about why the bottles have strange combinations, and it's because Isurugi asked the young Misora about earth elements and what would kill them, like a tank killing a rabbit or a Gatling gun killing a hawk. I mean, it's not technically wrong, but how does a smartphone kill a wolf? Or is it the other way around? I don't know. Anyway, Papa Katsuragi is here. He sure is. He's standing there, looking evil. Yeah, that's him. Hyper battle video time! Poor Gentoku thinks no one enjoys his fashion, so Sento creates a power-up for him that requires a build driver. Whoops. Misora takes Gentoku on a shopping spree. A smash and Evolt appears. Then Sento prepares to fight, but Misora takes his driver to transform, Gentoku take it to transform into Kamen Rider Prime Rogue.
Are you ready?
The day is saved, but Gentoku went too hard on Prime Rogue and it'll take some time to fix. As in, it's their excuse on why it isn't in the main season. And that's it. No, really, that's it. I don't think it's as silly as any other HBV, at least by nature, not counting the fashion stuff. But, man, do I really have nothing to say about this? It was kinda silly at first how Misora wanted to transform but got it taken away. Though it's messed up the more you think about it. Like, come on, Toei, not even for a really quick scene. Oh, I actually do like the Prime Rogue suit. Purple and gold are some of the fanciest colors you can use, along with white, and the cape is a cool touch. Okay, I think that's really it. Doesn't mean anything when the special does so little that I can explain it in only a couple minutes. Is there a Marcosatsu TV tropes out there that says, this article is a stub, please help expand it, but I can't expand it because there's nothing to expand? Why did Rogue get 2 specials? That's kind of annoying, and more annoying is that I hate his stupid Caution Fragile sticker on the back of his head. Who wrote this? Oh, wait, no, what the heck? Where did that come from? Back to the show, I guess? No way. Katsuragi's dad is still here. Why? This sucks. He doesn't do anything. He becomes billed for a bit. Oh boy, whoop-de-doo. Let me guess. He isn't actually evil and is only playing towards Evolt's side. Oh, yeah, there it is. He turns one of the rabbit bottles gold. I wish my dad did that. Oh look, Sento creates a new power-up for Banjo, the Blizzard Knuckle. I wish my Sento did that. And now Katsuragi's dad is dead. What was his name again? I will constantly say that Kamen Rider Build is a near perfect season, and this arc is almost why it's not exactly 100% perfect. The Rogue miniseries to me is the low point, but this is a close second. Katsuragi's dad, Shinobu, is only in a handful of episodes around episode 41 through 45, but he's mentioned a few times before then. This stretch of episodes are kinda just there. The explanations we do get are interesting enough, but I feel like characters are just going through the flow of things fighting evil. Then they fight Shinobu. Oh wait, Shinobu isn't evil. Who could have seen that coming? Yeah, it gets to be a slog. Well, honestly, it's still not bad, but it feels like we just entered a completely different miniseries in the middle of the Evolt fight. Not to mention the introduction of the 10 lost bottles that need their own new Pandora's panel, so don't forget to ask your parents or ask your middleman to buy these brand new toys. Overall, I wouldn't say build is messy, but maybe just this part is messy. And besides, it almost seems like Evolt reached the climax, as in, what more can he really do? Oh. Pandora's tower still stands, and the new governors talk about reuniting the nation, one without the need of Kamen Riders. Sento is denounced and a warrant is out for his arrest. At least Sento understands how Banjo felt. This is the summer movie. Kamen Rider Build, Be the One. Not to be confused with the theme song title. I actually kinda like this. While Sento has help from his friends and allies in the main show, here he's truly alone, and on the run since people are being brainwashed. The main mystery is finding out that the new governors are part of a group called the Blood, who say they were behind Banjo's motivation from the beginning. Okay, wait. This is like the third explanation for Banjo's backstory. I didn't mention the first one, but around Magma's debut, Gentoku mentioned that someone he knew told Banjo about his dead girlfriend. Then it was possessed Tsurugi. Now it's the Blood? Did I have something to do with Banjo? You, the listener, did you have something to do with Banjo? Anyway, the Blood's leader used Banjo's Great Cross Dragon and a hazard trigger to transform into Kamen Rider Blood.
Henshin.
Great suit.
地球存亡の鍵を握るのは番長だって俺の大切な相棒なんだよ。
Great gay moment. During the final confrontation with Blood, Sento and Vernage create the Rabbit Dragon Bottle.
さあ最後の実験を始めようか。
Great moment. Kamen Rider Cross Build is a great suit for these partners who are clearly just roommates. Two riders transforming together a few feet apart because they're they're clearly partners.
Kamen Rider Build is a heated drama between men.
Sento x Banjo. With the love and peace finish, the day is saved, and these best friends walk back home as the awful theme Everlasting Sky plays. During the after credits, a portal opens in Sento's lab. He sees a war between Kamen Riders and monsters. Then a new rider appears who uses the Build Ride Watch. He introduces himself as Kamen Rider Gio, the Demon King who has the power of all the riders. With the help of Shinobu's advice, Sento is able to find a hidden white panel from Pandora's box. The panel shows a parallel world, one without the skywall, and if the white panel merges with the others, a distortion will be created and kill off Evolt. Knowing that they're nearing the final battle, Sento has Kazumi, the Blizzard Knuckle, who it was originally meant for, because its bottle has data from the Hokuto Crow trio. However, its hazard level is so high that it may kill Kazumi once used. It's time for one last night together for our cast. The riders fight through Pandora's tower as Evolt creates black holes around the city. Kazumi fights data copies of the trio until he realizes that now is the right moment.
Are you ready? できてるよ。
Meanwhile, Gentoku and Utsumi are fighting off the Hellbros. What, you thought Utsumi was evil this whole time too? What, you thought Utsumi wasn't a cyborg from Sento's one-off joke? No, seriously, what? Kazumi is all out of time. He uses a finisher and begins to fade. Misora cracks a small joke. Kazumi says goodbye, and Misora finally calls him
Kazumi.
At the top of Pandora's Tower, Banjo and Sento face off against Evolt, who is about to destroy the world. With the last of his strength, Gentoku protects the riders, breaking his helmet. What's left of the civilians below cheer on the riders, giving Gentoku the last push he needed for a finisher, and says goodbye to Sento. His sacrifice wasn't for nothing, as Evolt's trigger breaks, and Sento is able to activate the white panel with the black panel to summon a parallel world. Banjo pushes Sento away, and takes Evolt into the wormhole. Episode 49, The Tomorrow Build Will Create. Sento quickly follows into the desert between worlds as Sento goes Gurren Lagann and has an all-out attack with every main transformation.
Rabbits and rabbit people are you ready? Over for rabbit! Rabbit time for play! Rabbit!
His friends together created Kamen Rider Build, and they're all fighting for love and peace, especially with his best match partner, Banjo. This moment is so cool, but why did the moment have to be ruined with the CGI form? Anyway, Sento uses a finisher, and then...
ここどこだ？
Sento and Banjo wake up, seeing the worlds are still about to collide. Evolt is barely alive, and Katsuragi says that everyone watching is a victim of what's about to happen. Kazumi and Gentoku arrive last minute as a result of the panels for this final moment.
カズミ！そこで二人は熱い抱擁、そして濃厚なキス。
Elsewhere, Sawa and Misora hear the voices of the riders in their fight. This is Kamen Rider Build Final Stage, which is obviously a stage show, and it is so out of left field I had no idea where to even place this. So the intro is post-build, but it quickly explains that these events take place literally before the worlds collide in the finale. It's certainly an interesting premise, even if it feels extended for no real reason, but I also don't see any good placement to have a build show, so this is probably the best they could do. Still, I'm usually a fan of stage shows, and builds isn't bad either. The extension comes in the form of lost bottles that the riders have to search for in the desert between worlds, and it does feel like stakes are a bit higher since, well, the worlds are literally colliding. Plus it has some cute moments like Utsumi wanting to be called Utsumin like Kazumin.
うつみん。うつみん？もしかしてカズミンに憧れて？
And how the audience watching takes part as bystanders as they look upon the riders and cheer them on. Sorry for this extreme pace breaker, but it felt more appropriate to tell it here rather than saying the ending and being like, oh wait, actually something else happened. While I personally really enjoyed Final Stage, I don't think I can recommend it unless you really want more build content, and for some of you, I know you really want more build content.
俺が必ずお前を探し出す。どこにいてもな。
Sento wakes up on a grassy field, holding onto a ride watch. The sky wall is no more. Sawa meets with Gentoku for an interview. Utsumi is working at a factory. Kazumi and the trio are at the cafe. And of course, Kazumi immediately falls for Misora. One weird thing is that Isurugi's coffee actually tastes good. This is the new world. And Sento committed mass genocide. More importantly, this Sento would have never existed, so no one would know who he is. Even Katsuragi says goodbye, leaving Sento truly alone. Sento sees Banjo go on a walk with Kasumi, but Banjo doesn't recognize him either. So Sento sits on a fountain, not knowing what to do, until...
セント
The Banjo we know would have never existed either since he came from Evolt's DNA, but now our best match duo are together again. Sento hands Banjo his memoir, all written down to 49 episodes, and it starts a little like this.
天才物理学者桐生セントがいるトートの町でスマッシュと呼ばれる謎の怪人が市民を脅かしていた。そこに現れたのが我らがヒーロー仮面ライダー。天才物理学者桐生セントがいるトートの町でスマッシュと呼ばれる謎の怪人が市民を脅かしていた。そこに現れたのが我らがヒーロー仮面ライダー。自分で
仮面ライダービルドこの後すぐ
A long time ago, one of my closest friends was getting interested in Kamen Rider. I told him to pick his favorite suit, and then we'll watch it together. So we bought some Chinese food, he came over and sat down to watch Kamen Rider Saber. He absolutely loved it. Sometime later, he asked for another season, so I narrowed down a few choices, and he chose Kamen Rider Build. I didn't think much of it. At most, I was like, well, at least I'll get my notes out of the way for a history of Build. We watched the first episode, and it was better than I remember. When we got to episode 3, where Sento talks about what he thinks being a hero means, that hit me harder than anything else in this franchise. Then we watched up to episode 11, where Banjo became a Kamen Rider. My friend got up out of his seat and yelled out in excitement. That was the moment where I realized Kamen Rider Build is everything I ever wanted, flaws and all. I'll admit, at first I was really reluctant to even say that this was slowly reaching my top 10 favorite seasons, let alone 5. Amazons and Hibiki always have been near perfection to me, but they were missing something. I'm just not sure what it was. It was just something. Then Build came along and, well, there's a reason why this video is so long. After watching those episodes, I just couldn't wait. So I watched another episode by myself, and then another, and another, and another. Of course, being the guy that I am who talks about these shows, I kept wondering why this watch through meant so much to me. This is the second time I watched Build in its entirety. The first time was week to week as it was airing, and I've always said that it was a good show. Yeah, that's about it. I acknowledge why people liked it, but I brushed it aside as a season not meant for me. However, one thing that stuck out with me was that I said it was not only a good show, but a masterpiece. Really? A masterpiece? That's the rating I give for something I didn't like as much as others? Well, yeah. There are some media I reviewed that I personally didn't enjoy, but still understood the value in for others. This can even go as far as me saying that there's substance in something that I never want to watch again for unexpected reasons. I kept racking my brain, wondering why I loved Build the second time around. The easiest and most cop-out answer I can give is saying, I genuinely don't know, which was my main verdict for a while. Although writing the script got me into thinking about Hibiki and Amazon. I love Hibiki because it's a story of growing up and valuing life, portrayed in a realistic way that I wasn't expecting from Kamen Rider. I love Amazons because it's a story of redemption through dark times, also portrayed in a very different manner that I never thought I'd see in Modern Rider. Then there's Build, a story of not letting your past define you, while the world literally starts crumbling. And, you guessed it, it was told in a way I never saw coming. But by the end, Hibiki, Amazons, and Build each have one thing in common that I value most of all: hope. Yes, it's cheesy, though much like Love and Peace, it's an ideal I stick by, not in a literal sense, but more in a poetic way. I think it's funny how Sento said love and peace almost out of nowhere, since it seemed like he said it in a sarcastic way when Banjo asked for his reason to fight. Then that cheesy answer became a mantra for everyone. And they knew it was corny. Banjo and Kazumi were actually getting annoyed by how weird it sounded. But by the finale, it was a phrase to stick by, even as the world was coming to an end. That's when I realized what Hibiki and Amazons were missing. I finally got my answer. I love Kamen Rider Build because it's one of the most personal stories I've stuck with. Personal in basically every sense of the word. It may not seem like it on the surface since I'm the, history of Kamen Rider guy, haha, I watched Tokusatsu, but I'm not the happiest guy. So when I watched episode 21, I felt the closest I ever have to a TV show. Now, I never killed a guy or anything, but Sento being in a depressive state felt incredibly real. He locked himself away in his room, staring at nothing, wishing things could have been better. When he was confronted by Isurugi and was beaten down with words, Sento lashed out and finally had something to release his anger and sadness. This was a character I understood more than any of the other 20 plus years of consuming media. But it's not just the sad moments that get to me. I love the banter between friends, the forgiveness that our leads have to go through, those moments of happiness in dark times. The rooftop party before the final battle might be one of my favorite scenes in, well, everything. Everyone knew what was coming. Some might not even make it back, but they all still tried to have a good time and wish for the best, with only one more night they had together. I understood because I went through something similar. During a dark time in my life, I was invited to hang out with some friends, and they all knew what was happening, but we had a good time regardless. I felt happy. Then here comes Build to remind me of how grateful I am to have people I care about. It's what makes Build so special. I have a very personal connection with it, and I'm not sure how many people out there feel the same way, but I'm me, and Build makes me happy to be me, because Kamen Rider Build is not only a masterpiece, but one of my favorite Kamen Rider seasons, tied with Hibiki and Amazons. They're my big three, and yet there's still more.
プロテインの貴公子万丈龍河だ
10 years since the creation of the new world, Sento and Banjo have set up a home in a warehouse. Sento has been busy recording for his memoir, which Banjo questioned since they needed to hire a lot of voice actors. Even one for Evolt, so they hired Kanao Tetsuo, his actual voice actor. Okay, that's funny. They've been living like this due to everyone else losing their memories, and the pair have nowhere else to really go. At the very least, Sento built a new spider gadget that can surpass Cross Dragon, but it's not like they have much use for it anyway. As for making money, Banjo goes out to sell some of Sento's old technology. Trouble already starts brewing, as an alien named Killboss emerges from Sento's white panel. Killboss is after Banjo, who still has remnants of Evolt's DNA within him, so Killboss uses Banjo to remake Pandora's box and restore everyone's memories. Now Evolt is back, so he and Banjo team up to defeat his brother, Killboss, the ruler of Planet Blood. This is Kamen Rider Build New World, Kamen Rider Cross. Why? Why would they do this? It just ruined one of the best endings ever. Why undo everything Sento and friends fought for? I hate Toei. I hate whoever this stupid piece of movie. Is that what you wanted me to say? Well, I've seen a lot of comments wanting me to absolutely bash how quote-unquote bad the New World movies are, but I really like them. These movies don't undo what happened previously. The consequences are still there, and new elements connect to the old ones, but I know they're not perfect, and even I have some big gripes about them. In essence, I can put them in the category of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. 1 step forward with Killboss being from Planet Blood. That's a great callback that ties a summer movie together. With 2 steps back when he says he's Evolt's brother. Why? Even to me, that sounds really dumb. It's kind of my pet peeve in stories when a brand new family member who's always been here is introduced later and never brought up before. 1 step forward with the old cast regaining their memories but still understanding the consequences of living in this world. 2 steps back when these memories also affect random civilians. Some people start to remember who the Kamen Riders are, but that feels completely unnecessary and pads the story a bit more than needed. There's a lady who plays an important role to the plot since she remembers Banjo first, but I can't be bothered to even remember her name. 1 step forward with Banjo being expanded upon even further with great characterization and a little more backstory. 2 steps back when it turns out that Evolt was the one who killed Banjo's parents to raise his hazard level and blah blah. Despite that, Evolt has a change of heart and promises not to destroy the Earth, though he's definitely gonna destroy other planets. Yeah, it's getting so annoying to hear, oh wait, such and such was actually behind it the whole time. I don't actively dislike the Cross movie as much as others, but I do acknowledge that it has a lot of faults that definitely could have been fixed or excluded altogether. Besides, the movie has great moments, and Killboss is really cool. The Killboss spider thing took years to come out, and of course, I had to buy one because that suit is amazing. Oh yeah, Sento creates a muscle galaxy bottle for Banjo to fight off Killboss. This season has no bad suits. With a day saved, Banjo goes on a date at the flea market.
Best match!
Before we reach Build's end, let's go over some things I missed, starting with the music. Build's opening, Be the One by Pandora featuring Beverly. Right off the bat, it's a great song, but not one I was expecting for Kamen Rider. My recurring viewers probably know I say this way too much. It's a good song, but not a good Kamen Rider song. It's like way too upbeat for me, and quite frankly, it doesn't get me hyped for the show. Still, like I kept saying, it's great outside of that. The electronic beats and clean modern style are perfect for a fantastic singer like Beverly. This is one I highly recommend listening to a live version for. cause Beverly is really talented. Aside from that, can I also say that I just think the title is cool? Be the One. That would make for a cool movie title. Oh wait. I thought Ready Go was sung by the Kamen Rider Girls, but it's actually by AXL 21, an idol group created for Build's insert theme. Ready Go is okay. This is it, the theme for Banjo, Burning My Soul, originally by J Crown and Taku. It's Cross Magma's theme and it's really good. Build's inserts and OST use a lot of electronic mixes, which I think is good for the season, but it also has a great use of rock guitar, and Burning My Soul is probably one of the coolest sounding songs. There's also a version sung by Hiroyuki Takami and AXL 21. Oh man, that intro is so good. A little random that Kamen Rider Chronos returned to sing a song, but hey, I'm not complaining. Evolution sung by AXL 21. I don't like it. The lyrics are cool though. Build Up, now sung by the Kamen Rider Girls, and the theme for Build Genius. It's okay. Ooh, a song by Rider Chips, Law of the Victory. I got nothing else to say about it either. Huh, Burning My Soul really is good, but now it kind of feels like out of default. Ugh, I hate this one. Oh my gosh. Everlasting Sky, sung by Beverly for Build Summer Movie. It's just so boring. Oh, here we go. Cross by J Crown and Taku for New World Cross. This is the energy I love and needed for Build as a whole. That intro just never leaves my head and the guitar sounds great. Although I think it's funny with how energetic it is, it's only played as the ending song. These compliments are also for the next movie theme, by the way. As for the suits, like I kept saying, this season has no bad designs. Build is probably the best combination of new and old, being incredibly clean with an asymmetrical design that complements each color pairing. I almost feel like I don't even need to talk about the suits because, well, most people love them. Build, all his best matches, Build Hazard, Cross Magma, Evolt Black Hole, Grease, Cross Charge. Here's Kamen Rider Build New World Kamen Rider Grease. Following the events of Cross, Kazumi and Misora spend more time together, but it's not a date. She's trying to buy clothes for her dad, which makes Kazumi run away from his problems, just like me. But Evolt wasn't the only villain around. Uraga was once experimented on and tortured, so he's returned with an organization called Downfall and wants revenge. So it's up to Kazumi to come back and face the new threat as Uraga takes everyone else hostage.
No! How can you transform?
I love this movie so much. It almost feels like our cast hasn't left and we get to enjoy them one more time. Our best match guys are the same as always. The Hokuto Crow Trio are themselves, and Uraga is a great villain.
Uncontrol switch! Black Hazard! Yabe!
Kamen Rider Metal Build is just Black Hazard with great tank visors, but man, just that small difference goes beyond what I loved about the base suit. It's fantastic. I'm mostly glad we have a human villain instead of an alien. It makes stakes feel a little more personal. Speaking of personal and stakes, Senta wants to create the perfect kingdom power-up for Kazumi to combat Metal Build, but it'll take the power of the Hokuto Crow Trio to do it.
Are you ready?
Henshin.
After a fight with an upgraded Uraga, called Phantom Build, Banjo delivers Perfect Kingdom to Kazumi, along with the trio's dog tag. This scene only made better with each other rider powering up.
Henshin! 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 Henshin.
Are you ready?
Henshin.
With the final battle over, Kazumi understands the sacrifice the trio had to make once again, so he thanks his friends. Until the trio surprise him. Sento said he only wanted to make Kazumi think they died so this hazard level could increase. Okay, I guess that's like morbidly funny, but it's also a really thing to do. Gentoku and Sawa end up dating. Utsumi creates an unbreakable stick, and Misora asks Kazumi out.
Kazumi.
Soak it in, guys. This is the last frame we ever see of Kamen Rider Build. With all that being said, I shouldn't delay this any longer. Join me next Rider Time for the final season of the Heisei era. With nearly 50 years of this franchise, 20 main seasons, and the end of History of Heisei Kamen Rider. We'll go over quarter and rejoice for our Demon King, Kamen Rider Gio.
俺は筋肉バカじゃねえ。ボス、プロテインの貴公子、万丈龍河だ。行くぞ。